Right. Dig into it. Turn everything on. Switch over to this. Wait a second. Wait a second. Is this working? No, it's not. Okay. How do I do this? Let's just get refreshed. Restart capture. There we go. Getting better at this. Yeah. And can't stop me. Okay, so last we left off. There we go. Okay, we were taking this image to... Well, we'll take it all the way, but here's where we left off. Yeah, this is interesting. I don't usually... Oh, now it's morning. Leica, welcome back. This is funny. I don't usually... Usually I quit out of OBS after I do all this stuff so it doesn't compound the issues that can build up and cause a crash. But I like to live dangerously, so... Anyway, here's where we last left off, and today is a stressful day that I can have no part of. My wife left half an hour ago to go to the hospital with my daughter. She'll have her scans there. Everybody's very nonchalant about it because we're so used to going to it and doing this stuff that it's, you know, she's just excited she gets to skip school. I hope all the confidence can count for something. But this will be a good distraction for me. While I'm doing this, my son is playing and watching cartoons and eating breakfast, and I've got one ear open. This ear does not have an earbud in it, so I think it helps. Hopefully in my imagination, sometimes I still... If she's not in front of me, like, I can think of her as sick or getting sick. I can think of it and imagine it that way. But then when I see her, and I actually get eyes on her, and it isn't that way, it doesn't appear that way, I feel like that helps. I feel like... I don't know. I'll try. Anyway, today's a day I just gotta get through, and... If I don't busy myself with something constructive, it'll be something destructive. None of that'll help. Okay, so... Link here is supposed to be under the legs of a defeated monster that has exploded. That's why there's fire and bits of crap everywhere. There's a field of like dry grass that is also on fire, a little bit, like nothing major. It's not like a raging fire. It's just sort of like stuff caught on fire. There's definitely... I think right now something I really want to address is the out of place redness of the fire. That can be something that is real, but I don't want to have such a leap in the colors from the sort of the color of the lit grass from the... So I'm going to desaturate a little bit, so they feel a little bit more related. So that was before, and that's after. It's subtle, but it's gonna help me feel like the colors that I'm using are good. Yeah, go walk your dog. I'm gonna be here mumbling to myself. Okay. Now this is feeling a little bit more like the fire might actually be a part of the space. Because I'm not comfortable going so saturated yet, where the fire had those saturated reds and oranges in it, and even though they weren't overly saturated, they were still a little too much for me. As I work through my process, I'm getting bolder and bolder, but until I am at that confidence level, I think keeping things desaturated to start is still giving me a good result. Let's look at this original sketch. It's a fun mix of chaos and stillness. I like that for the theme of it. Softness and roughness, these things juxtaposed, you know. Dying and healing. I like all this stuff. I wonder. This might be something I should better address later. I wonder if I can erase into, yeah. Erasing into the fill of the bottle. Will help sell the transparency of it, I think. Here. A bit more of that lighting effect. I've sort of implied that down here there was some kind of fire off scene that is lighting the hand from down below here. Get a little bit of that here. Some of that. Just a taste. Hey Robbie, what's up, buddy? bright. Maybe something like that. Okay, what's up, man? It's been a while. I see you streaming, by the way. Or I get your go lives. They're always at inopportune times for me to join, but thanks for popping in. How you been? Always blessed. That's a great way to think of it. The latest drama for me is my daughter is getting her scans today for her, basically she gets these maintenance scans to make sure her cancer doesn't come back. And today's the day. Today's the big one. So, and I can't do anything about it. They're at the hospital right now, getting that stuff done. It's fairly routine for them. Hey, Robbie, what do you got there? You want to show me? Do you know who made this? Let me show people. I'll give it right back. We've got all these Halloween decorations. These little cardboard cutout bats. Can you see that? Yeah. Okay, buddy, here you go, bud. Alright. You want to hide it? Alright, do what you like. I'm gonna need to do something. Pull up the reference image. There's a spider there. Is it a real spider or a fake spider? A real one? Okay, go away from the real spider.
It's red.
Daddy will fix it later. It's a big red spider. Okay, buddy. I'll get it later. It won't hurt you. I'm gonna pull up the reference image of the original sketch, because I feel like I need that out as a guide. It's only through... I've got dealing with scarier stuff than spiders these days. Okay. Streams. This is the one. Okay. The magic of this needs to get transposed into the color. Of course, we're going to need a lot of particle effects and all sorts of stuff. Yeah, it's fun to see, actually. Like in this one, I've got the rim of the bottle much more lit by the fairy light, and I like that. You're gonna be driving me crazy. You can play in here if you want to. Try not to break anything. Also, that's not a place to stand. You can't climb up there. You're gonna hurt yourself, buddy. I have to think intelligently about how to organize these layer stacks.
Dada,
Yes, Robbie.
what's the thing that you can when you get up in the attic and you're not like you?
You can get insulation.
But what if
It's gonna itch your skin. If you go in the attic, you're gonna get itchy skin from the...
installation when you went up there?
Yes, I did, but the hair on my arms protected me from it.
Did the insulation not get on the John?
It couldn't get on me because it couldn't touch my skin. It only got on the hair.
But you can just wear shoes.
Well, Robbie, later on we'll go into the attic at my parents' house, at Papa Shaw's house.
And then I can try to, and then I can try to like find stuff that I want. And then I can find stuff that I wanted to play with.
You might find stuff that you want to play with up there. You might.
And then I can go like, if Papa Shop not have any, did Papa Shop have zero insulation?
It has some, but you don't have to step on it to get up there. That's funny. My kid saw a cartoon where they go into the attic and they find cool stuff, so now he's obsessed with going into attics. And our attic doesn't have anything.
Look what I can do.
You're getting... Oh, there you are. You're on the exercise stepper.
This is fun.
Is it fun? Okay, you can do that. Normally I might say, don't do that. Get out. But today I don't have any hardness in my heart. Be patient and understanding. I might only be able to... So much of this image, because the broad strokes are so quickly covered, this might be one of those where I really have to just get into the little details that I don't normally get into too much. So I think they'll make a big difference. This is a composition that is very likely to get overworked by me, so I gotta make sure I don't get too overexposed. All the small little fights. The light isn't going to be over there. It's going to have to be over there. There's going to be a lot of work in this that is going to feel like painting.
Do you have to make a new cartoon?
Do I have to make new cartoons?
Yeah.
Do you know I'm making a drawing right now? That's a drawing that I'm making. What do you think?
Is that the one that you made from Papa Shop?
No.
Do you make new Do you make new TV for me and Kiki to watch?
No, Shasha used to do that. I make new commercials for you guys to watch.
I hate commercials.
You can't say you hate commercials. You have to say I love commercials.
Then I'm gonna try to make a new cartoon.
You want to work on cartoons? Do you want to make drawings like Daddy? And then you can make new cartoons.
Can I try to make a new cartoon?
You can try. Maybe not right now, but maybe later.
Ta-da!
I can make you, I can set you up on the iPad later and you can draw like Kiki used to. Would that be fun? We're gonna have some patience today. I definitely don't have too much of an agenda. Okay, I think it makes sense to... Let's mess up the monster a bit. The monster's gonna have its like exoskeleton that's gonna have to look like it got jacked up. Because right now we just have like this structure. And exoskeleton, I mean, even in this little sketch, make it big.
Dad,
It'll let me.
Dad, I'm up here.
I see you. We make this look big. We can see like there's cracks in it where it gets smashed. Let's get some of that represented.
Jump to that table. Jump on your backpack. Jump on the jump. Jump.
Because it's a defeated monster, it has to have like serious battle damage, right?
Jump, jump. Jump.
Like maybe Link threw a bomb at it, right?
Jump.
You're gonna run and jump? Okay.
Up here. Gonna bring it to the wall.
I don't think you should do that.
First I gotta set up.
Mm-hmm.
Set up. Set up. Go. No, I got it.
Then after I get a sufficient amount of battle damage, it doesn't have to be everywhere. If it's everywhere, it won't count for anything. It needs to be where it needs to be.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm not really thinking about it too much. I know I didn't think about it too much when I drew it originally. There could be old scar wounds. Any number of things could have happened. It's like when you see photos of those sharks that have been alive for hundreds of years, or like a really old tortoise, desert tortoise. You know, it's got like the names of conquistadors carved into the shell. Hernando was here or something like that, you know. I'm not saying that actually happened, but like theoretically it could they live for hundreds of years. Old ass whales have scars all over their bodies from fights with giant squids or whatever. That one's too obvious. And then this is a new section. Painted in here. This is ill-advised, but I made a correction at the last second to have this arm sort of tuck under Link and commit into it. What'll happen is we'll have all these really gross, fun, wiry hairs that catch all this light. You can see them here. It's funny because Robbie found a spider, and this is supposed to be, theoretically, my story for this image is Link has defeated the Goma, which is a giant spider. And here he is trapped under some of the legs. But texture is going to play a huge part in this, which is sort of different from a lot of the ones we've been doing lately, where we're so wide the camera that we don't see a lot of texture necessarily. I'm also not any kind of expert on texture or on anything, but texture definitely not. So it'll be fun going on a voyage of discovery, but I'm not going to worry about whether or not it looks perfect up close. If it looks good from a distance, I need it to look good from here. Like shrunk down, I see it on my monitor. If it looks good there, I'll be happy enough. So it's 7:45 now. We'll go to 8:15. It's another short stream. We'll see. I'm doing these as often as I can. It's definitely been lucky for me to do these, I don't know whether or not anybody watches them at all, for me to have a mental, a sufficient mental distraction from downtimes at work is super helpful. There are times when clients just have to, Micah, welcome back. I was just saying that there are perfectly reasonable, rational times when work has to say, or has to be like, okay, we'll get back to you. And, you know, in my mind, when work sort of has to ignore me, I don't take that well. I think of it, I catastrophize about that too. Like I get really worried about like, oh my God, they have negative feedback and they don't know how to tell me and they think I suck and, you know, why did I do that thing that I did or whatever. And none of that is actually none of that's true. It's just where my mind goes if I'm left to be bored when I could be productive. And so having this is super helpful to make me feel like, okay, I can do this and still feel like I'm working towards some kind of goal. But I was mentioning that this piece, unlike a lot of the others, is going to be about texture. Which means that though the subjects are relatively few and simple, we got Link, we got a bottle, we got the fairy, we got the ground plane, and we got the monster. It's very simple compared to like this horse one, for instance. I mean, even I guess this one is a little bit simpler, but the layer stack for this one was super long. This one is going to be much simpler, you know. The layer stack for the other one was twice as long as this one. There's a lot of weird overlapping also that needs to happen here. Like Link is, his layer is above the spider, except here where I need the spider to, like some of these hairs need to go on top of Link. They're gonna stack on top of him, right? In order to have that stuff feel integrated. And some of the hairs are going to catch the light, and some of them aren't. So there will be a huge potential for me to overdo it, like over-render, overdo it. But that's okay. I will learn. It's hard not to overdo it. Yeah. Like even here, like I don't like how that looks, but I also have to sort of like trust the process a little bit. Like I should have these hairs on a separate layer in case I need to erase them out. So here I'm learning too, right? We can zoom in a little bit so we can see how this is looking. Given the way the shape of the sort of like thinking of the bunch of skeletons fell over, that's all. But Robbie, that's not a seat, and if you sit on it you could fall over too. Okay, do you understand?
I'll be careful.
You're gonna be careful. Okay. It's like looking at the hair, like my arm. It's hard to see, but it's, trust me, it's got hair all over it, and it's really wiry. It's like this spider, and it's not as visible looking at it here, like directly looking at it here. But when I look at it along the edge, you can see the length and the way that they stack on top of each other in depth. It feels more pronounced. So having that effect here more hair is represented at the edge. I think it is. This stuff is like new territory for me. Definitely not well versed in color generally, and then furthermore, like getting in there with texture and color. Like I'm like I have like a mental roadmap, and my roadmap is just thinking about like, okay, if it's this color hit by this light at this angle, what is that? Like objectively, what would that be in real life? And then see if it looks good. And then if it doesn't look good, you know, make it look good. But if thinking about it realistically-ish and applying it that way can make it look good. Do you ever analyze other people's artwork to learn, or do you solely learn by doing? So it's tricky. A lot of the... It ended up being, in my career, I ended up doing a lot of... I got on a lot of projects early on. You would call them like motion graphics projects. But... How would I... This is funny. Let's see here. Call of Duty. Is it Ghosts? Cinematics. Yeah. So we're gonna do. This will probably get. Let me pause the music. Oop. This will probably get. This will probably get flagged as like don't do that kind of thing. But the you know, so I might have to strike this little portion, but this is a good indicator. This is why it's hard to describe what I end up doing for work, because it's hard to describe these effects. So watch this. This is done, this must be 10 years ago or more for the Call of Duty Ghosts, for instance. So one of my first game trailers. But this typifies the type of work that I do, where there's special effects that are hard to describe and hard to quantify and hard to... they need to be storyboarded because they're expensive to make, and then they are abstract. And abstract stuff is, like, visually you can see it and understand it, but it's another thing to sort of, it's easier to show than to explain. So let's take a look at these for a second. So I worked on half of these. Half of what we'll see for a minute is mine, and the other half would be another artist's work.
A different enemy. 60 men from tier 1 teams were sent to face down a force.
You can see there's like a sense of realism, or like, okay, these are real things, but they're not
civilian hospital and keep its occupants alive.
but they're not like the way these transitions are happening, like these bullets firing at each other, people getting hit, but they're not getting hit with and like exploding into flesh. They're almost modeled as like clay, and it's not at a realistic scale. It's done and it's very stylized. And so here's the problem, is these aesthetics don't exist until we make them. Because again, like the stuff we did here was, you know, sort of groundbreaking and doing other types of, like, led to other stuff down the road. Let me see if I can find one that I actually worked on.
The remaining 14 rows out of the...
No, these are that's the actual game. We don't want any of that. Those are the cutscenes. Wait, that would have been one of mine. Here. So this sort of stuff,
Too unpredictable. If he was sending us out there,
where we have transitions that go from one thing to the next.
still, I couldn't help but think this was another one of his tests. A lesson he was trying to teach us.
I don't know if I'm answering your question well. But the unfortunately, some of the abstraction reminds me of the Dark Souls 2 intro cinematic, if I've ever seen that. No, I haven't, but I'll check it out. The a lot of stuff that we end up doing is sort of like in commercials. Like, we really try to over-index on the novelty aspect so that we can be like eye-catching. And so there were a lot of really creative and untested kinds of aesthetic choices. Ultimately, I do learn from other artists, but I don't get a lot of pre-study. It's really learn on the fly. And so I am used to having to sort of like think about it in a way that is like very like, hey man, it's just you. Let's just figure this out. And so I'm not unaccustomed to being sort of thrown into the fire, so to speak, to make this stuff happen. I'm comfortable with being uncomfortable. Like, hey, well, how do I do that? And sort of like, yeah, I'll figure it out. Yeah, I don't like the dark lines there. A lot of trial by error, but the digital workflow makes it possible. You can just totally make a mistake and not have it cost you everything, you know? So all that is rendered in 2D and then sound effects are applied, or is it 3D? All that was 3D. There's plenty of stuff I work on that's 2D. I'll show you some other, there's these Airbnb campaigns are really what I'm working on right now. They're everywhere, so you've probably seen them. So like this is one that I worked on.
If it's always been a dream to go to Paris, why stay in a hotel on the touristy side of Paris? Get an Airbnb on the Paris-y side of Paris.
It was all a dream. I used to read Word Up magazine. Salt and pepper and heavy D up in the limousine. Hanging pictures on my...
So that's a literal 2-day example of something that I'm working on. And then recently the Batman Arkham Shadow teaser trailer. Is this it? Yeah. So this is another great one that I storyboarded this year. They turned it around so quickly. It's kind of amazing. I don't know if you saw this one, Leica, but I'll play it again because it's good. But this is these sorts of I'm used to sort of thinking about like kinds of really complex aesthetics. Like I had to storyboard the POV of this bat chasing this rat, like going through these alleyways, making this chase, making sure the camera scale felt right, the way all those rats are pouring out of the window and stuff. I had to do the design that pitches that. Oh yeah, sound design. Yes, we don't talk about the sound design. But yeah, okay, so we've established some of that, but like unfortunately I can't look and learn from other artists what it's like to be a bat from a bat POV. It's really on me and my imagination. But I definitely learn, you know, I'm not an island. I've taken a lot of workshops and classes. There's that company Schoolism. I've definitely taken some workshops through there that have been extremely helpful for me. I think about that stuff all the time. And I try to watch other people's art streams, but I don't see that they end up doing a lot of like mostly what I see people drawing is like Pokemon characters that are they're all sort of looking the same. they're definitely using a different method to color than I am. I just find for me reading stuff help learn general lessons about how words function. Then I can apply that stuff I write, which is hopefully somewhat original. Yeah. Well, I think obviously whether or not I'm picking it up, intentionally, I definitely pick up influences unconsciously. That's absolutely true. You want to learn visual art at some point? Yeah, me too. Yeah, this project is not, I'm aware that it's not like super educational necessarily, but it is sort of, I'm thinking of it as a little bit of like a case study. Like, how do I draw this? And I'll just live stream it. And then, if nothing else, I can audit my technique later. Or if someone's like, hey, how did you draw that? I'll be like, well, check it out. Particularly want to learn how Zdislav Beksinski did that. Yeah, now we definitely, since you bring it up, we'll bring it up again. But I'm aware this was your favorite, was he Polish artist? Czech? Polish painter and photographer. Interesting. Yeah, the name doesn't necessarily ring a bell for a lot of people, but then when you see the art, you're like, oh, that guy. Yeah. Surrealist. I'm glad to see that well, frankly, I don't know what to trust these days, but it doesn't look like typing his name has totally been supplanted by AI ripoffs. But there's a lot to be said about texture. I mean, he's a photographer. Some of this stuff evokes the feeling of like fungus and mushrooms. And a creative process can be as simple as like, okay, here's a human's face, but what if it was ugly and had the texture of mushrooms? And then just using that as not an AI prompt, but a human mental prompt as you go along. You could end up with something that, yeah, what's interesting is he found his work very comedic, apparently. Interesting. Kind of like a dark humor, maybe. It's like maybe something like the Joker or something. I don't know. Okay, yeah, it is a little bit rams the point home. Let me bring back my music. Where did I have it? Here we go. Try this one. Like sometimes, especially with horror media, if you stretch it really far, it starts being funny. Yeah, that's true. I mean, especially from his point of view, imagine being so steeped in it, like it's an everyday thing. It's, like, you can't be intimidated by something that is extremely familiar, right? So maybe he sort of, like, shell-shocked him. Like, whereas, like, for a normal person that's like, oh, that's such grotesque, you know, imagery, it bothers me. But, like, that anxiety button, like, that instant response, it's like a button that if you push it too many times, it stops working. Right? So it's just sort of like, this doesn't bother me anymore. Like someone who, maybe everybody's different, but like someone could be so used to seeing like the horrors of war or horrible gunshot wounds or whatever, that for them it's just, you know, it's traumatizing for you, but for me it's Tuesday, you know, what's for lunch? I think my personal opinion is that horror and comedy are in the same artistic spectrum. Yeah, but we treat them as different things when, in my opinion, we shouldn't. I think they certainly seem to dovetail. Now, I don't laugh at horror necessarily, but I think Sam Raimi's like the Evil Dead or Army of Darkness stuff, that's definitely like synthesized in those things. So it can definitely be crossover. Orange Font's The Shining, it was terrified me, and now I don't get scared at it by it at all. I haven't seen The Shining in its entirety. I feel like that would be a scary thing, but that's bad on me. Like someone who's like steeped in cinema or whatever, or I'm supposed to be as a storyboard artist, I should have seen all of Kubrick's films, but they feel like they would be a bit of a time suck, unfortunately. Here I'm trying to find the degree of the fall off that is going to happen with the light as it spreads over the surface of this. This bug. Also, I think also Wes Anderson is a good one to look at, not necessarily to emulate, but it's because it's strong personal style, and I think it helps artists form their own voices. I hate Wes Anderson, but not in a way where I like repudiate his talent or anything like that. It's I just don't prefer highly conspicuous directing styles, and then this is like again a like if possible, I'd like to be able to set aside the highly conspicuous directing styles are not immersive to me. Even by rejecting it, you've learned something about your own approach to art. Well, what ended up happening was like I was overexposed to Wes Anderson influences by nature of they were so popular among the demographic that advertisers want to appeal to, that I became jaded to the concept of every, like, Wes Anderson at the peak of his popularity, he's still quite popular obviously, but the peak of his popularity, every commercial needed to emulate Wes Anderson's sort of flat camera, played out, in that sort of do you know what knowing is? Because if you don't, you'll recognize it in a second. This is knolling. Yeah, well, that's what I don't like. It's called knolling, where it is Knolling. And this is very much a sort of born out of that. Like, Wes Anderson didn't necessarily do this to the point of overstating the fact, but it's almost it's there in a I don't want to ascribe to him traits that weren't necessarily his, but out of that obsession with that sort of flat to camera, present the entire character as a graphic image in photographic form. This is sort of part of that, and yeah, almost anything like that evokes those things. What I don't like about my job is that it tends to take good things about art and then tie all these chains of, here's this thing you like, but now here's this, product you don't need attached to it. You make this association and we'll have done our job as advertisers. And that is that's a corruption, I think. Someone who comes up with something that wasn't necessarily there to sell cell phones, but then it's used to sell cell phones. Yeah, I took an advertising class in college, and it honestly just convinced me I could never do advertising. You, as a person who's still in it, you definitely have to check your, keep in check your sense of personal integrity about, hey, isn't this wrong to do? Because there's some of that in it. And that's kind of why I'm doing this too, is I need a break from using my skills just to make money, I guess. I can do better than that. And when I started, it was a simple choice because there wasn't any money to be made anyway. Started streaming, I mean, like when the work was just all dried up and it was nothing. I was like, well, if I'm not going to make money doing this stuff, it's a perfect opportunity to do it for free, I guess. So yeah, like the big one that annoys me as a queer person is all the rainbow capitalism stuff. Yeah, I can tell you it's extremely it's applied extremely cynically. But there's a flip side too, whereas I'm sure you're aware that big corporations, I shouldn't say specific ones, but let's say you were a big corporation that were known for not being supportive of, I guess LGBTQ stuff. And you made a big deal about it, so it's known. But then when you want advertising, you still want the best. So you go to these companies and you've got a gay director, a gay editor, a gay producer, and for them to be okay, everybody has to sort of check themselves a little bit in when it comes, check their, put aside their sort of personal feelings about the matter to address the business of the thing, which is, pretty clear how it's done. Like June comes around and suddenly we matter. Where we all the rest of the year? Yeah. I'm not a fan of the way that aesthetics sort of come and go. Like, to me, if a design is good, like it should always be good, right? But what ends up happening is designs and aesthetics end up getting, if they become popular, they become overplayed, overstated, to the point where people are just like, enough, I never want to see that again. That's actually kind of what has happened to the Wes Anderson approach in advertising. It was the advertisers and creative people had a feeding frenzy on that aesthetic for years, just milked it dry until the public at large were just like, I'm sick of this. I don't respond well to this anymore. You know, hopefully that doesn't, affect like Wes Anderson himself's career, but it's too much. Too much is too much, right? And then what you have is a big flip around. It's a big distaste. And I don't like how, there's just this tendency to go too far with things, whereas the classics are always good. Like, the classics are always good, so just do the classics. Well, it's not what people should do. Maybe that would happen too, but there's something about the classic way of doing things where I'm like, okay, that's really what I want to focus on, is instead of chasing trends, I'd like to see more, like, all I try to do when it comes to like learning about stuff is focusing on like where are today's stuff, where was it derived from? I want to trace that back. I want to get to those sources and tap into that. And it's always just the classics. It's it's sort of like an arms race. Exactly. Like to get to this trend before anyone else does, so you don't get lost in the noise. Exactly. Yeah. Doesn't have to be that way, but it ends up being that way. Yeah, I try to be divorced from trends as much as possible. Not to say all my influences are classics or anything, far from it, but I don't want to chase that. It's like when you look back at people who were 80s fashion victims or 90s fashion victims, those aesthetics are so stark and like cringeworthy sometimes, depending on the era you're looking back to it from. Oh my gosh, my time is getting away from me. I gotta make my kid lunch and take him to school, so we're gonna have to call it a day here. But let me save. Do a quick thumbnail. Yeah. I don't know, I'll zoom in on this one. Shoot my work a disapproving look and call it a stream. Okay. Leica, thanks for joining, and I will hopefully see you next time. Adios.